Hi, and welcome back to my channel. Have you ever thought of how your personality relates to God and discipleship? Today on our podcast, we will do a deep dive on personality and discipleship.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're exploring this really fascinating intersection of theology, psychology, and neuroscience, all to unlock genuine spiritual transformation. Honestly, if you've ever felt like traditional spiritual routines just kind of don't click for you, well, you are definitely in the right place. So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start by unpacking the discipleship disconnect, look at the anatomy of the soul, and see what happens when psychology meets spirituality. Then, we're going to dive right into the neuroscience of formation, and finally, map out some specific practices to your unique personality. Let's jump right into Section 1, the discipleship disconnect, and how we move beyond mere behavior modification. We have to acknowledge a huge disparity gap here. It's a question so many of us quietly ask ourselves. Why do so many Christians feel spiritually stuck? Research actually shows this doesn't stem from a lack of desire. Most people really want to change. The real problem? It's a lack of understanding of how to connect with God beyond just acquiring theological facts. Think about it for a second. Are you trying to connect with God using someone else's wiring? Mahatma Gandhi actually had this famous observation, saying, "I like your Christ, I do not like your Christians. Your Christians are so unlike your Christ." And wow, that cuts right to the core of the issue, doesn't it? When we settle for a one-size-fits-all approach to faith, we basically end up relying on sheer behavior modification. We try to live the ways of Christ through pure brute willpower. It's literally like forcing a smile when you're completely exhausted. You might understand the truth of the gospel, sure, but you completely miss out on the life-giving power that actually changes a person's character from the inside out. Which brings us to Section 2, Anatomy of the Soul, and the concept of the tripartite man. To understand why that sheer willpower approach completely fails, let's look at how theology helps us understand our complex internal wiring. Based on the teachings of Watchman Nee and Witness Lee, we can view humans as tripartite, meaning made of three parts. Your spirit is the site of conscience and your direct communion with God. Your body, obviously, interacts with the physical world. But right there in the middle is your soul. And this is the site of your unique personality, housing your will, your mind, and your emotions. What this means is we can't just will ourselves to be closer to God. We actually need to discover how our specific, unique soul is designed to process life in order to bridge that gap. All right, moving on to Section 3, Psychology meets Spirituality, where we start discovering our creation gifts. Now we're going to overlay this theological anatomy with psychology, just to see how our unique quirks are actually divine gifts. The really crucial insight here is that Carl Jung's framework of psychological types isn't just clinical. Theologians actually view these types as creation gifts that reveal our natural pathways for connection. Think about it. Your personality is absolutely not an accident. It's an innate, God-given preference that determines exactly how you focus your energy, receive information, and make decisions. Recognizing these traits is really the very first step in discovering how you are fundamentally wired to relate to God. These 4 scales make up the familiar Myers-Briggs traits, and your leanings on them drastically change how you approach spiritual life. Like, do you focus on the inner world of ideas or the outer world of people? Are you the life of the party, or are you the one hiding in the kitchen petting the host's dog? Do you prefer actualities or possibilities, logic or emotions? Now, Christ utilized all these preferences in perfect balance, but for us, understanding our primary leanings helps us identify our own natural, unforced pathways right into God's presence. Okay, let's shift gears to Section 4, the neuroscience of formation, and how we upgrade the mind. Let's look at the physical brain for a minute, because it proves exactly why relying on sheer effort consistently fails. It is super fascinating to realize that traditional discipleship is deeply, deeply left-brained. It focuses almost exclusively on doctrine, willpower, duty, and behavioral strategies. But true character transformation, that requires the relational joy of the right brain. The right side of our brain processes secure attachment, love, and group identity. So if we only ever feed the left brain with information, we are entirely bypassing the neural pathways that are literally designed to bring about genuine life change. Neurotheologian Jim Wilder beautifully drives this home. He says, if we want to grow and transform our character into the character of Jesus, we must involve activities that stimulate and develop the right brain. Our brains are quite literally designed to change through love and joy, not just rigid religious duty. He argues that behavior actually takes care of itself if we focus on the right brain skills that help us receive love. So, tending to our unique relational needs based on our personality, it isn't selfish at all. It's actually a neurological prerequisite for character formation. This leads us perfectly into Section 5, Mapping Practices to Personalities, where we'll look at the data. Let's look at some actual survey results from the source research to see how different personality clusters naturally relate to God. When analyzing the data on postures towards God across these 4 distinct groups, an incredible story emerges. Notice how the intuitive feeling NF types experience massive emotional variance. They range from thankful to hesitant, confused, and even frustrated. They crave deep, authentic connection. But then, look at the sensing, judging, and sensing, perceiving types. They are almost uniformly dutiful and thankful. It really goes to show that your basic psychological makeup heavily influences the baseline emotional posture of your fate. Now, interestingly enough, the data also shows that personality type doesn't dictate which member of the Trinity you feel closest to. You might assume a logical thinking type gravitates only to Jesus as the Word, or a feeling type only connects to the Holy Spirit. But no, the split remains remarkably even across all 4 psychological groupings. It's just a beautiful reminder that God's nature is vast enough to satisfy the relational needs of every single personality type. So how do we actually put all this into practice? Author John Mark Comer introduces this brilliant analogy of upstream versus downstream spiritual disciplines. Downstream practices are the ones you naturally love. They fit your personality, they stimulate right brain joy, and they honestly feel like a breeze. Upstream practices, however, challenge your opposite preferences. They definitely feel like hard work, but they are absolutely essential for bringing long-term spiritual balance to your life. To break that down a bit more, if you are a perceiving type who prefers life to be open and experienced, unstructured disciplines like Sabbath and solitude will feel delightfully downstream. But highly structured disciplines like fasting or planned generosity are the upstream challenges you'll eventually need. Or say you're an extrovert. Community is your natural downstream engine for joy. But eventually, you're going to need to wade upstream into solitude to find true balance. So how does this build into an actionable path to wholeness? Well, step 1 is to start with those downstream disciplines. Lean right into your natural Myers-Briggs wiring to rediscover the actual joy of your Creator. You want to build that right brain secure attachment first. Then step 2 is to slowly integrate upstream disciplines. By first embracing the practices that fit your unique soul, you build the secure relational foundation that's required to eventually tackle the disciplines that feel like work. That is how you ensure you don't get stuck in a spiritual rut. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a rather provocative thought to consider as you rethink your own spiritual routines and start leveraging your true creation gifts. You start downstream to find the joy, absolutely. But what if your greatest spiritual breakthrough is actually hiding upstream, in the very opposite of your personality?